Hey, what's up guys? I'll be reviewing this infamous title from EA and DICE. The only other real review I've done on the channel is for Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice, and that was a long time ago. But I think I want to do more reviews, such as my opinions on Oris. The background footage will be this match, and I don't think it'll be the best gameplay, because it is a shooter and it's hard to record, so you gotta get what you get. That said, let's dive into this review. I got this game like September 2019, like right before this month, used for about $14. I didn't want to give EA my money because of their Notorious, and rightly so. The loot box scandal to come out of this game's launch and beta is probably one of the most disgraceful acts in the industry. Back in spring of 2018, it prompted me to write an academic paper on microtransactions, that being the loot box scandal. It inspired me to do this literally in my college 200 level class to write a paper about it. Like, buying an unfair advantage such as more health or stronger grenades, stuff like that, is just bullshit and it's greedy. As far as I'm aware, these things are gone, but they left an imprint that can't be undone, such as like the star card system, like the upgrades and advantages that you get as you progress in the game. It seems unnecessary and unnecessarily complex, but I will get into that later. But I think I have to express the unsavory launch and why I think it's important to explain in my review to people who are into gaming and to the Star Wars community that the game only feels worth playing now. I didn't buy it at launch. I would have never even considered buying it at launch or anywhere close to like this time period where now it actually feels like the game might be worth playing. You'll see that in this review. When it came out, there wasn't like much of a reason to play. It brought the Clone Wars, which is the best era in Star Wars, but it did so half-heartedly. Like, there wasn't a lot. Like, Grievous, Dooku, Obi Wan, and Anakin were not all in the game at launch. They're there now, but they weren't there at launch, and that seems outrageous. It seems unfair. How can you have a Star Wars game without Anakin and Obi Wan, characters present in one way or another in all 6 films from a certain point of view? It's like if they made a new Smash and they didn't have Mario, Link, Donkey Kong, and Pikachu. Like, that's what it feels like. So the game, in my opinion, was entirely incomplete until these characters were added. Free new characters could be argued to be nice, but it tells me that they pushed out the game in an incomplete way. Like, it was an incomplete product, charged full price, and they had microtransactions on top of that, making the launch really nasty. Only in 19, with a competent list of heroes, does it even seem worth playing. I cannot imagine playing this game at launch without Geonosis or Anakin, like, for real. They literally added Finn and Phasma. Phasma doesn't even have like 3 minutes of screen time over 2 movies before they even added Obi Wan. And I know that it's to market the new films, but it just seems absurd. Obi Wan is like the central character and made up the core of 4 of the original films before Disney. And I feel like it's worth critiquing that the incompleteness of the launch shouldn't be acceptable. Companies shouldn't put out incomplete games. And it's nice that they didn't lift the game to die and that they continued to support it and add stuff to it. But an incomplete game at launch it just feels incomplete and shouldn't be worth buying at launch and is then bought later on. By comparison, Smash Ultimate brought back every character and new ones, and it felt like a complete game without DLC at launch. And now it's getting added more and more, and this is an extreme example of developer Sakurai going beyond and beyond to make the game the best it can possibly be. But it didn't need to do that. He didn't launch the game with the bare minimum. He went above and beyond for the base game. So now in 2019, Battlefront II has like a roster of heroes that's decent enough to play, and the game will not feel like kind of empty, but it's not expansive enough, and it leaves more to be desired. While there is the sequel characters like Rey, Kylo, and Phasma that like don't really mean anything to me, and probably to a good portion of fans who we kind of don't like the sequels for obvious reasons. Those characters are just meaningless slots. And then characters from the original Battlefront 2, like the 2005 game, like Django, Ayla Secura, they would be great additions. And especially Mace Windu, come on, he's a main character. They've included a few things from the Clone Wars animated series, which I really like, such as commando droids. So it feels possible that they could someday add Ahsoka and Ventress as a good and evil dual-wielding hero. And that would be really exciting for me because the Clone Wars series is amazing and I want to talk about more in future videos. But will they do that? I do not know. But as it stands, the roster isn't bad now after 2 years, but it still feels incomplete. And the same goes for the maps. Like Felucia just dropped, and it's a really awesome map. Like, it's really cool. But the map rotation is trash. Like, you enter a game mode like Assault, and you have to play each map twice. And then there's like a set map rotation. Like, I really wish it followed Halo, or like Call of Duty, where you could vote on whatever map you want to play, and then whatever people wanted to play would get played. And if they just set like popular maps with popular maps and bad maps with bad maps, everything would get played eventually because people would vote for it. But you're kind of like stuck and forced into this rotation, which doesn't seem favorable. Even like a server setup, kind of like in Battlefield, where you can choose like a 24/7 one map server, that'd be kind of cool. I just don't like the map rotation as it is, in my opinion, right now. The core gameplay is fine, like the shooting and the lightsabers, it's alright. But it seems unnecessarily complex, because each class, vehicle, hero, whatever, you have 3 cards that you can get and unlock, and they can change your damage, your health, and like the powers of your abilities. And like, I was really against it at first. I'm kind of like more open to it now the more you play, because the more you play, you obviously level up and you get more. But when you start with nothing and you're playing people with everything, it seems really unbalanced and unfair. And it seems unnecessary. Like, why is it not simple? But it was a developer choice. There's customization of every loadout is cool. But like I said, more health or more damage seems like an unfair thing if someone else doesn't have that option. I kind of wish there was like loadouts. Kind of like Halo Reach, for example. Like, there is differences that you could choose, but everyone can pick a loadout. Like, for example, instead of Anakin having 3 star cards and you choosing like from like 10 of them, there's like 3 different loadouts and it's 3 different ways to play Anakin, and everyone can play that one of those 3 ways from the very beginning. At the end of the day, raw skill will beat cards, like people who have better cards than you. But if you feel like, even if you have skill, it feels like you're missing potential because you don't have the best cards. Because if you have the best cards and the best skill, you'll be dominating, and if you don't have the best cards and you have skill, you'll feel like you're missing out. The guns are pretty good. I personally really love the Jet Trooper, the Saber Combat. It kind of doesn't make sense sometimes it's alright. It's really weird. The game is super buggy, but I'm not even going to get into that, but there is a massive amount of bugs from all sides. The lightsaber combat seems mindless at first, but the more you do it, the more you kind of get used to the blocking and the dodging. But it's still kind of mindless in a way. Heroes versus villains is annoying, but fun. Yeah, in my script I just wrote like it's just chaos, and that's kind of the fun and annoyance of it. But you got to figure that out for yourself. It's jank. I haven't even played the space battles yet because that part of the game doesn't really interest me as I can't fly. But as it stands, the options for offline modes is improving. I literally bought the game right before they added instant action and stuff like that. So the offline modes sucked, but they did improve that with instant action now, where you can play better game modes offline. But before that, and like literally probably since launch, like 2 years, there's been like probably no offline modes. So that's trash. Like, so as I said, launch is terrible, and it seems to be getting better and better. But the question stands, like, is this appropriate? Like, yes, they're supporting the game, but is it too late, or is it fine now? All in all, it's a decent game in its current state right now. Whether you want to buy from EA or not, that's up to you. I bought it used. The original Battlefront II still seems to have a lot more. Like, it has more maps like Utapau, Coruscant, Megiddo, like literally stuff that's like not even that relevant, like Megiddo and Felucia especially. But they added Felucia now, and it's a really good map, so I hope we can see more of that, especially Coruscant, maybe even Mustafar. Like, it just feels like there's maps lacking, primarily from like the prequel era. There's a few sequel maps, but like those really don't mean a lot when I feel like the majority of the fan base doesn't like the sequels. Graphically, it's pretty good. Some of the maps like Kashyyyk and Geonosis I think are really fun to play. The game's current state, I think I'd give it a 6.5 out of 10. At launch, it would have probably been a 0 or a 1, like just not worth getting at all. And now it seems to be steadily improving. The real retail price is $20 where I live, so you could get that, or you can get it for maybe like around 10 used. Um, or you could play the original Battlefront 2, which is fun in its own right. Because Palpatine had a saber in that game, and he doesn't in this one. And I kind of don't like that, but it's okay. So here's my review, and I'll see you around.